Well, New Year's Eve, it's been a pretty rough year. I don't know if 2025 can get any worse. I hope it can get at least moderately better. I think that there is a great apparent lack of a human compassion. That's a thread that has run through 2024. I don't mean on an individual level, on a day to day basis, that people's relations have changed that much. I mean, collectively, socially, I do sympathize to a certain degree with the anger, in fact, to a great degree, with the anger in the United States that was suscitated by the assassination of somebody who himself is an assassin, only the law is quite hypocritical. If I pull a gun and blow your brains out, I'm a murderer. If I deny you medical care and you die, I'm not a murderer, and I can make as much money as I can. So there's a lot of hypocrisy in this. But again, the question is this: how do you link this anger to some constructive political action? And all over the world, there's plenty of anger and there is equally destructive political action. Does anybody think that the right wing party in Germany really gives a damn about working class Germans? They feast on fear of immigration and they feast on a certain amount of racism. Let us be blunt about that. And it's the same thing in France. You know, Marine Le Pen is wise enough not to be a free market economist and to admit for a welfare state, but she won't stand up with the labor unions. And in Canada, just what's happened in the United States with the election of Trump seems to be very much repeating itself in Canada. Very unpopular incumbent government, and a very snarling, snarky leader of the opposition who has hit home with many people in terms of their grievances. But it, but what is being overlooked with the usual, well, we don't like the fellows who are in, so let's take the fellows who are out, is that you really have to give a little bit of a look at the fellows who are out. And this is what I'm afraid is it did not happen in the United States and is not happening in Canada. It's not only Pierre Poilievre, it's the whole rot in the Canadian Conservative Party. You know, not long ago, it was possible that one person other than Poilievre might very well become Conservative leader, and that is Kevin O'Leary. And Kevin O'Leary has now, of course, taken seriously the idea of Trump, of Canada becoming the 51st state. So it's not the left in Canada, but the hard right who are the real quislings, who would literally sell Canada out to the United States. And the polls consistently show high conservative support without paying attention to the fact that inevitably the conservatives come in. They're not going to be higher taxes on the rich. They're going to be less taxes on corporations. And that doesn't mean with the lowering of taxes that they're going to invest more. It's not happened for years and years. It's not going to happen now or in the near future. And even the abortion question will be raised again. He has said, that he is definitely going to conserve a woman's right to choose. But there are plenty of people in the Canadian Conservative Party who would gladly roll back women's rights in this realm. And the other thing is that I think that as many mistakes as Trudeau has made, I think that the hatred has gone a little bit too far. It's forgotten that he, with the help of the NDP, they did steer us through a pandemic. And how quickly and easily electors forget this, And it's very interesting because, of course, during the convoy, Poilievre and half of the conservatives were feeding the fascist thugs of the convoy donuts and coffee. And I wonder if Poilievre and the conservatives any of the conservatives ever made a speech thanking nurses, thanking orderlies, thanking doctors for combating the pandemic. The conservatives very quick about defending people's so-called liberty. And it's very interesting that they would defend these people because just the honking of horns alone all night long is a violation of other people's liberty. But I would be very interested in honking my horn in front of Poilievre's house or any of these other right-wing Tories and see how they react. All of a sudden, it's their liberty to honk, but it's not my liberty. Because as a friend of mine said, when Americans talk about liberty, and I would add conservatives of many stripes, they're talking about my liberty and not the collective liberty. The planet has to be shared, and liberty it has to be admitted, is a relative concept. If you live on a farm isolated from anywhere else and you can feed yourself and you can do occasional shopping that you need, you can put on your music as loud as you want because you're not bothering anybody. But that liberty does not exist if you're living next to other people. We have rules that, after a certain hour, between certain hours, noise has to be kept to a minimum. And it's the same issue, liberty, about all of us can walk any of the streets we want at any time until there is a major fire. And when there is a fire, the firefighters cordon off substantial sections of streets. And it is no longer your right to walk on those streets until such time as the fire has been extinguished in one way or another. And of course, the firefighters cannot always save the people who are in the buildings. They cannot always save the buildings. But it's a lot better, a lot safer when you have firefighters than when you don't. It's the same thing with seat belts. Seat belts aren't a guarantee of death in car accidents, but they have substantially reduced them to such a degree that it is a necessary law. And it's the same thing with vaccines. The vaccine may be imperfect, but imperfect vaccine is infinitely better than the whole anti-vax movement. None of these idiots have ever thought about the fact that even if people get COVID again and again and again, they don't die and they don't suffer in the same way if they have been vaccinated. And I remind, because I think sometimes we're crawling into a dark age, that George Washington in the 1700s ordered all of his men to be vaccinated. And, vaccines have been one of the most incredible human inventions. And yet, it seems to me that in recent years, there's been more of an opposition to vaccines. It seems like we're going back in some ways to the Neanderthal age. So here's the thing. I think that whatever mistakes, and there are many that Trudeau has made, he doesn't merit the sheer volume of hatred at him. And again, I would also have to say, and it bothers me to say this as a militant member of the New Democratic Party and on its left wing, is that I am not sure that Jagmeet made the right decision in terms of joining the chorus of bringing down the Liberal government. I think, frankly, because of the polls, we need to bargain. We need to borrow some time. We still have some time left. As the late Prime Minister of Great Britain, Harold Wilson, once said, a week is a long time in politics. And so right now it looks like Conservatives are going to be in a landslide. And they probably would be if the elections are held too soon. I think that prorogation or whatever tactic is necessary to hold on and to do a rethink. Because what the NDP could continue to do is to squeeze more and more concessions from the Liberals. But it's a very big gamble on the part of Jagmeet to think that the NDP in one fell swoop can take all of the liberal votes and go on to defeat the conservatives. It would be very nice, but I don't think it's going to happen. Anyway, it's been a very, very rough year, rougher for some than for others. And I wish everybody a happy new year, or at least a happier new year. And I will continue my sometimes somewhat isolated voice in time to come. Happy New Year to one and all.